Previously, Jiwoo and Jisuk went looking for Wuin and found his blood on the ground near the place where he lived. Following the scent of his blood, Kaden took the boys to Wuin's location, and they stumbled upon the Klein brothers who were just about to take Wuin away. Jiwoo and Jisuk decided to step in the fight to help Wuin, but the Klein brothers seemed too powerful for them to handle. Luckily, Ji-young and Kaden ended up helping them take down the evil duo. As Duran is screaming because of his broken arm, Kaden calls him a weakling, and Duran gets so pissed that he immediately tries to attack Kaden, but Kaden just kicks his face, and Duran is sent flying away. He asks Kaden who he is, but Kaden tells him that he has other things to worry about. Summoning his power on the tip of his finger, he asks Duran if that's how he tortured the kids and gives him the same treatment. When Duran screams in pain, Kaden is filled with amusement and keeps on torturing him. With tears in his eyes, Duran apologizes and begs for forgiveness. But Kaden is just getting started, so he uses spatial isolation to stop others from hearing his screams and continues torturing him. Suddenly, he remembers that Duran was about to crank up the pain when he was torturing Jiwoo, so he amplifies his own powers by 100, and Duran almost shit his ass. Luckily, Jiwoo begs him to stop, and tells Kaden that he doesn't have to do all this for him. Duran thinks that he has heard the name somewhere before, but tries not to think too much about that, as Kaden is distracted, and it could be his only chance to kill him. Kaden asks Jiwoo why he wants to spare someone who was ready to kill him, so he replies that he is not trying to be nice, but just doesn't want Kaden to do that because of him. Approaching Jiwoo, he asks about his health, and bonks him on the head because Jiwoo keeps smiling like a brainless idiot. Seeing him, Wuin remembers Delane advising him to not tell anyone about Kaden. He told him not to bother asking Jiwoo about him either, and just forget everything that happened when they came face to face with Kaden. While they are distracted, Duran prepares his attack and is about to launch a rain of fireballs at them, saying that he is going to kill everyone. However, Kaden tells Duran that he's the only one getting killed, and electrocutes him until he gets unconscious. After he does that, he tells Jiwoo that he is leaving, as things will get complicated if he is seen there. Before going, he gives Wuin a pat on the shoulder, saying that he is a bright kid, and advises him to not blab to anyone about him. Just when he goes away, Ji-young and Jisuk arrive at their location, and Jiwoo is happy to see that Jisuk is all right. When Wuin thanks Jisuk for saving him, he acts like he didn't come here to rescue him, and just didn't want the Klein brothers to cause trouble in their territory. Seeing Duran's electrocuted body, Ji-young asks Jiwoo and Wuin if they managed to take him down. Jiwoo panics, but Wuin covers his back and says that they both lost consciousness when Duran attacked them, and when they woke up, he was already lying on the floor like a medium well-sirloin steak. Ji-young can see that Duran was burnt by something, but it doesn't look like fire to her. Jisuk thinks that the way Duran is burnt is worse than being burnt by fire, and the marks on him are the same as the other brother. Putting the pieces together, he thinks that it must be the doing of that fat cat, and wonders if he should tell Ji-young about this. However, he thinks that Ji-young will call him crazy, and if that fat cat finds out that he didn't keep his secret, he will make him experience hell, and Jisuk starts shivering just by imagining it. Later on in her office, In-hyuk informs Ji-young that the Klein brothers are unconscious, and he has made preparations to question them as soon as they wake up. Ji-young asks him if he found out where they were going, so In-hyuk tells her that their movements are somehow linked to Delane, as they had asked Wuin about his whereabouts. In-hyuk believes that someone must have been in need of his services, or the research data he has gained through his experiments. Ji-young then asks him if he has found out who attacked Duran, so he tells her that he has no information as of yet since Jiwoo and Wuin were both unconscious, and when they woke up, the brother was already down. There were similar burns on the other brother as well, and Jisuk has no idea how he got those burns. Since all of this feels strange to Ji-young, It makes In-hyuk wonder if Ji-young thinks that someone else helped them, but they are hiding that from them. Even if what they say is true, Ji-young is sure that they still had some sort of help, as she felt an intense surge of power as she was approaching Jisuk's location. Moreover, she felt traces of spatial isolation when she met up with Ji-woo and Wuin. With all of this, she suspects that the person who helped them is Kaden. Wow, I've never seen a fictional character who's been able to figure out what's going on as fast as she just did. Even though they found traces of him recently, In-hyuk still feels that Ji-young might be overthinking this, as Kaden is famous as a loner who lives in search of tough and powerful opponents to fight. He asks what reason Kaden might have to help them, but Ji-young has no idea about it either. When In-hyuk goes outside her office, he sees Sangha and asks him if he has come to claim the Klein brothers that they caught. Sangha tells him that he is not there for that reason, but to thank him for saving Wuin, as he would have died had they not arrived in time. Hearing the thanks, In-hyuk gets on a high horse and tells him that he never expected in his life that Sangha would personally come to thank him. He thinks that it must have been really hard for him, but Sangha recognizes when a thanks is due. In-hyuk then goes after saying that he is sure Sangha would have done the same for Shinhwa's agents. Meanwhile, in the hospital, the three boys are together in the same hospital room again, and Jisuk recalls the fight he had with the Klein brothers, thinking that he knew they were strong, but he never expected the difference in their power to be so high. He wonders how a cat can have so much power, and thinks that there was always something odd about that fat cat, as even its eyes looked menacing. He asks Ji-woo how he got his cats. So Ji-woo tells him that they are all stray cats, and they are all adorable to him. Jisuk finds him crazy, as Kaden is no ordinary street cat to him, so he asks Ji-woo if he has found anything odd about that fat cat of his, so Ji-woo replies that the only odd thing about that fat cat is that it is strangely adorable. Jisuk gets angry at him for this dumbass reply, and almost tells him that the fat cat is Kaden, but decides to keep his mouth shut as he values his life more. Poor Jisuk thinks he's going insane when really the other two have just come to terms with the great and powerful Mr. Kaden. Ji-woo asks him again what he thinks about the fat cat, but now Jisuk also agrees that it's the most adorable cat in the world, and Ji-woo tells him that people often think that cats don't listen, but most of his cats are really obedient. Looking at him and Wuin praising cats non-stop, Jisuk calls both of them mentally ill and thinks that they have no idea how scary that fat cat is. As he expresses his frustration, Ji-woo gets worried and thinks that he needs a doctor. At home, Kaden thinks that he has used what little power he had saved up and wonders how he will return to his original state if he keeps wasting his power like this. He gets angry at the stupid kids for ruining stuff for him, but thinks that Ji-woo is the only one who wanted him to spare someone, while on the contrary, everyone in his past life wanted him to use his power for themselves. Remembering the affection Ji-woo gives him all the time, he decides to officially adopt that cinnamon roll and tells himself that he can just regain his energy anytime. Sometime after, Jisuk leaves the hospital and In-hyuk asks why he left the hospital when he hasn't fully recovered. However, Jisuk feels that he is fine, and since everyone else had already been discharged, there was no reason for him to stay there by himself. In-hyuk thinks that he had the least injuries, which makes Jisuk angry, and he starts yapping about how he was the least injured because he was stronger than the others. Ji-young then asks Jisuk if he has ever met with Kaden. Jisuk knows him as the maniac who's obsessed with fighting top-tier awakened ones, and asks Ji-young if he was given the nickname Break because he devastates everything in his path. He asks Ji-young why she is suddenly asking him about Kaden, and hearing the way he is talking, In-hyuk thinks that he doesn't seem to be hiding anything. Jisuk knows that Kaden is so infamously powerful that most awakened ones avoid him, and if he ever runs into him, he will just get the hell away. Ji-young then asks him if he is aware of how dangerous it was to fight the Klein brothers, and thinks that he did the right thing by contacting her first, as his opponents were far too strong for him to handle. However, she feels that the reason for his actions this time was far more justified than his usual ambitionless fighting. Going back home from the hospital, Jiwoo is eager to see Kaden as he hasn't seen him since the day he fought with the Klein brothers. As he enters the house, all the cats run to greet him, but Kaden is nowhere to be seen, and isn't coming out even when Jiwoo calls his name. As he searches for him everywhere, he starts getting worried as he fails to find Kaden. However, he eventually finds Kaden chilling in a bath in the bedroom upstairs. Jiwoo asks him why he is taking a bath here, so Kaden tells him that the other cats kept bothering him, so he decided to come here. After all that, I agree that Kaden deserves that damn bath, but I wonder how he managed to fill up the bucket and drag it upstairs. After he gets out of the bath, Kaden gets pissed at his round and chubby body as he can't dry himself properly with the towel, so Jiwoo helps him. And while doing it, he asks him if he ended up using a lot of his power helping him out. Kaden tells him that he just used a little, and Jiwoo apologizes to him for making him rescue him again. He somewhat feels sad about the fact that he's always helping him, but Kaden changes the topic and tells him to dry him fast. He wants Jiwoo to just focus on his training from now on, as all of this hassle occurred because he is too weak, and Jiwoo vows to do his best. At Delane's hideout, Wuin is panting because of the pain from his wounds, and Sangha tells him to rest a bit longer, as he may look fine, but his body has gone through a lot. However, Wuin tells him that the hospital has already treated the worst of his wounds, and since the rest will just heal eventually with time, there's no reason for him to keep resting. Sangha then asks him if he has thought over his offer to join the Union, and tells him that from the last fight, he must have realized that awakened ones need to be part of some group, and if Wuin had joined the Union earlier, none of this would have happened. Despite all this, Wuin tells him that he still needs time to think it over, so Sangha respects his choice and goes away. He didn't expect Wuin to be so indecisive and thinks that he is maybe feeling uneasy about joining an organization because he traveled alone with Delane for a long time. Out of nowhere, a girl named Subin greets him, and Sangha asks her why she is here. She tells him that heard something interesting and wanted to ask him about it in person. She asks him about the rumor that there's someone he is personally wanting to recruit. But that person remains indecisive and is giving up a golden opportunity like a fool. All this aside, I wonder why everyone from the Union has no eyebrows. When Wuin and Jiwoo go back to school, their teacher is surprised that both of them and Jisuk were in a car accident again. Such a creative excuse can only be made by In-hyuk. The teacher is glad that they weren't severely injured and tells the boys to take care of themselves. Meanwhile, Jisuk is searching for cats with special powers on the internet, but since he can't find anything, he decides to specify his statement and searches for fat cats with powers, thinking that maybe the fat body has something to do with his powers. His friends suddenly come into the classroom he is sitting in and express their concern for him since they heard that he was in a car accident. Hearing this, Jisuk thinks that the stupid In-hyuk must have made a car accident excuse again. His friends then ask him what he was doing in the same car as Jiwoo and Wuin, so Jiwoo tells them that it's none of their business. They call Jisuk out on his rude attitude, saying that they are just looking out for him as friends. Hearing them say that makes Jisuk remember all the bad things they said about him behind his back and how they were never really his friends, but used him because of his fighting capability and cash. While on the other hand, Jiwoo goes out of his way to help the people he holds dear to his heart. He mockingly tells the boys some friends they are, and just leaves the classroom without answering them further. Going outside, they think that Jisuk is just being cranky like always, but he has been like this for a long time, and because of that, they can't collect money from other students, as they just straight up ignore them now. They think that they need to get Jisuk in a better mood again, as they are running short on money, and those who used to fear them are now looking down on them. They see Subin standing nearby, and at first glance, they think that she is a guy because of her tomboy looks. Going up close, they ask what she is doing in their campus dressed like that, and realize that she is actually a girl. Subin finds it convenient that the boys approach her as she is trying to find someone, and asks them if they have heard of a student who goes by the name of Wuin. Their reaction tells Subin that they know him, so she asks them where he can find Wuin, but the boys call her a crazy bitch and say that they aren't her tour guides. They want to give her a beating to satisfy their fragile ego, but Subin just kicks one of them away into a wall. She asks them the question again, but the other boys ignore it and attack her. On their way back home from school, Jiwoo asks Jisuk what's up with him, as they are going to his home, and Jisuk never wants to come over to his house. Jisuk tells him that he needs to check on something, and when Jiwoo asks him if he can feed the street cats on the way home, he politely agrees. He asks Jiwoo if his school bag is filled with cat food instead of books, so Jiwoo answers that he has some books too, implying that it is still mostly cat food. As they move forward, they see Subin with those guys on the ground around her. Jisuk just tells the other to move forward, but no matter how bad his former friends are, he still steps up, and calling Subin a bitch, he tells her to remove her feet off his friend's head. This is where the video ends. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.